The other day, the doorbell rang at my house, and I've got to admit, I was almost afraid to answer the door. Not because I was scared of who might be there, but we weren't expecting anybody, and so there was some part of me that was like, oh no, that get that sort of cringy feeling of, I bet it's a door-to-door salesperson. And guess what? It was a door-to-door salesperson. In this case, I think trying to get us to change our internet service provider or move us to fiber optic or to replace our cell phones or all the above somehow. And I don't know about you, but me, I just have a hard time buying when somebody comes to the door and says, what I've got to offer you is great. Here, sign on the dotted line. Here's what you'll be paying, and then you'll find out how good it is. I mean, you hear stories about people who are scammed, who are taken advantage of, or what sounds great on paper or on the little tablet device that they bring to the door to show you how great their services are just turn out not to be so great, or there are hidden fees or surcharges, or it turns out that what they're providing isn't really quite what they promised, that kind of thing. I have been a victim too many times of listening to the door-to-door salesperson shtick that I didn't want to have to hear it one more time just to say no. And in a moment like that, you want to be polite, but I also didn't know, is it worse if I listen to the whole thing and then say, sorry, not interested? Is it better if I say right at the outset, I can tell you're selling something, this is not a good time, I'm not interested, and I won't be? I don't know. I want to treat those people who come to my door as humans and with respect, but I also don't want to waste their time on a hot summer day. So I listened and I told them, thank you for telling me all this. We're happy with what we have. Thanks so much. And watched them venture down the road to the next house. And I don't know about you either, but either side of that equation, either side of that interaction feels uncomfortable for me. Like, I don't like being the person listening to the sales pitch, feeling kind of icky, going, I don't want to buy what they're selling. This sounds too good to be true or isn't something I really need. How do I tell this person I'm just not interested? And on the other hand, it seems really, really uncomfortable to be the door-to-door salesperson, knowing that people might be hostile, that people might be interested, but also be a little bit nervous, that people might be suspicious that what you're doing is scamming them. Even if you are selling something that really is good, it just feels uncomfortable to me to be on either side of that interaction. And I've got to be honest, that's part of what makes it difficult at first blush for me to hear stories like the one we're going to look at this coming Sunday in worship, where Jesus sends this group of 70 of his disciples. This isn't just the inner circle of 12, but sort of an outer periphery of 70 of them. And they go out into the towns all around where Jesus is going to go. And at first it sounds like, oh, Jesus, are you just recruiting people to be door-to-door salespeople? Because you know how people respond to door-to-door salespeople, right? They're afraid of a face they don't recognize. They're worried they're going to be taken for a ride. They're worried that maybe this is all just a scheme or a scam or selling snake oil. And Jesus sends his followers out. And at first I think, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be just one more person selling something. Is that how people see the followers of Jesus? Are we just religious salespeople who go door to door selling our religious product? Try my church, not their church. Our church is 13% better. Is that all we're doing? And then when I actually pay attention to what Jesus says, when I actually read how Jesus sends these 70 people out, it surprises me. It catches me off guard every time I look at it again, because Jesus does something very different from what the door-to-door salespeople do when they come to my house, at least. When I get solicitors at my door, they're all talk, they're all promise, they're all, here's on paper what I'm offering you, now fork over the money and then you'll experience it. And Jesus sends his disciples to do something different. They go and they embody the reign of God. They aren't just selling a message. They aren't just saying, here are pamphlets to explain Jesus, and if you're interested, sign on the dotted line, become a subscriber, and then you'll get your promised results. The followers of Jesus aren't selling anything. We're simply embodying the good news of the way of the reign of God, of the Jesus way of life. Jesus sends his followers out and he says, you are supposed to announce to people when you go to a town, the reign of God, the kingdom of God has come near, but then you show them what that looks like. You embody it. So when there are people who are around, I'm empowering you with my own power to cure the sick. And when there are troubling spirits, you are given the authority to cast them out. And even when people reject you, even when people close the door in your face, You won't respond with anger or hatred or grudge holding. You'll respond with vulnerable love and say, okay, we'll move on to the next place. Even that becomes a reflection of the character of God. This kind of love that goes out in the world, that simply does good for the sake of doing good, that heals people for the sake of restoring people to life, that casts out evil spirits simply for the sake of letting people be free from their grip. In other words, bringing the reign of God right to people, not selling it like if you buy your shares now, there's afterlife insurance when you die, but rather, let me show you what the reign of God is like, and then give it to you for free. And then once you've tried it, once you've tasted it, once you've seen it, that becomes compelling enough that people say, I want to be a part of that too. I want to let that be my whole life as well. That's how Jesus and his disciples operate, not selling something, but giving something away for free in the confidence that when you've tasted and seen that it's good, when you've experienced the way of Jesus, when you've experienced the kingdom of God right before your eyes, you want to be a part of it. That's what our mission looks like. We aren't sent out week by week to hit a sales quota. We need to get more members, or we need to get more people in church, or we need to get more, or else we're going to let Jesus down and we won't make our third quarter sales initiative. That's not how it works. The church ain't a business. Instead, we're called to embody the good news of the Jesus way of life even now, and we do it for free. So we reach out and we serve, not because we're thinking, if I do good enough at this, then I'll get heavenly rewards, but rather the kingdom of God is the most blessed, beautiful way of life there is. So when I get to practice that, when I get to be generous, when I get to help other people, when I get to serve other people, when you get to be sent out and help fix somebody's roof that's leaking, or when we collect food for neighbors, or when we collect items for migrant workers, well, all those things that are around us that are part of our work and our life as the church, we're not doing them because we're selling anything. We're simply trying to embody, here's what the Jesus way of life looks like right where we are. That's a totally different picture than us being sent out as door-to-door salespeople, and it is so much more freeing. In my life, when I have found myself captivated by something that comes into my life unexpectedly, it's rarely the door-to-door salesperson, but it's more like if you're at a free concert somewhere and you're listening to a band play or a musician play, and you think, wow, that's really good music. I would buy that CD. I want that, right? That's maybe closer to what the reign of God is like. It's we put out this beautiful music, the reign of God, into the world wherever we go, and people find it compelling and say, I want to be a part of that. How do I give my life to be a part of that as well? That's the adventure we're on, not just this Sunday, but every week. But we're going to take a look at that story and where we find ourselves as the people Jesus sends into the world simply to embody the good news of the way of God's reign. Join us for that conversation this Sunday. See you then.